So all this morning we've been asking for your impressions of Mick Jagger. We've got a professional now. None of this Paul Lockett doing his Mick Jagger in the corner of the studio. If you've been watching Britain's Got Talent, you'll definitely know this guy. Andrew Lancaster, semi-finalist on Britain's Got Talent this week. You might have seen him doing an incredible job as Donald Trump, as well as many others, I must say. And it was Tuesday night you were on, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Tuesday,
I watched it religiously all week. And it's lovely to see you. Hiya.
Hello, lovely to see you too. Thank you for having me.
So we all like to think that we can do a good impression.
Yes.
The only one I can do is Danny Minogue. Would you like to hear it?
I'd love to.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have to put my neck back a bit because it just helps with the sound.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Hello, my name's Danny, and you can take your clothes to Marks and Spencer's. We'll exchange gift vouchers. What do you think?
Not bad at all.
Yeah, I could probably need to work on it. How do you do impressions? Like, where do you even start?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's a good question as well, because the truth is, I have no idea, because there is no manual. You know, I mean, I trained as an actor, and when you're studying acting, even with something like acting, there are certain people who've written ways of how to develop your craft, how to go from A to B to C, and get better in that respect. But there is no, as far as I'm aware, there is no manual for how to do it. So it really is just a case of sitting in front of the internet or the television and
practice
going for
practice.
it. Yeah, it's almost like each time you do an impression, it's a new car that you don't know how to drive, and you've just got to go for it.
Who was your first?
My first impression, it's funny, my mum tells this story of when I was about 4 years old. We were watching the telly and there was a South African journalist on, and she said that I turned round to her and started talking in the same accent as this South African journalist, which must have been incredibly scary for my mum.
Yeah, it's like, where's my son gone? This is weird. So how was Britain's Got Talent for you then? Because obviously, like you say, you've been an actor, you've done impressions. You don't just pop up on a TV show like that, and you got through many rounds before.
Yeah,
how was it?
It was an experience like nothing else. I mean, suddenly, prior to Britain's Got Talent, I'd only really done pubs and stuff like that in London and Manchester, and while that was great, that was a lot of fun. To go from doing small gigs like that
to national telly,
exactly,
to a big stage, isn't
exactly,
it?
Yeah. And the funny thing is, for me personally, when I was in the London Palladium, for example, I was thinking, oh, love the actor in me. So the London Palladium.
Yeah,
I'm here, darling. I'm here. And
rein it in.
Exactly, yeah. And but you don't think to yourself, there are millions of people watching outside of this.
I was one of them.
Well,
I was definitely one of them.
Fantastic.
It propels you though onto a massive stage.
Yeah.
So I always think, even if you don't win, even if you just get through to the semi-finals or whatever, it's suddenly you're put in front of people who would never have seen you otherwise. So
absolutely,
there's positives to it for sure, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And a pub audience is very different from a Saturday night family audience, and it's lovely.
A pub's a bit like a sponge, isn't it? It's like, come on, impress me, and they're like soaking it all up. You're like, giving.
Yeah,
I've got nothing left.
Especially if you do a gong show where they're allowed to determine whether you live or die.
I'd never do that.
It's quite terrifying.
So can you give us a couple of impressions, and then we'll end on your Mick Jagger?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, all right. I've been working on it.
I know.
Well, I think the one that one of the ones recently that went down quite well, was Sir David. And Sir David's interesting, of course, because he's very old. So the body is older and the throat is older. But at the same time, his eyes and his thoughts are as agile as ever.
That is amazing. If I actually close my eyes, that's so good for him. We've got to ask for you Donald Trump, because that kind of is your main thing, wasn't it, on BGT?
Yeah, that was. I'll break down how to Trump, shall I?
Please do. Yeah.
So, I think I start off. I think to myself, New York accent. He's from New York, so I think to myself, apologize for anybody from New York watching this, but I think to myself, okay, so like New York, get a dog. Hey boss, we can't do the bank job. They got dogs. So that's my New York accent. So, and then you get a little bit older and you put it in there, and then you finish off with his eyes. I don't know, he does this thing with his eyes, and he's got that flute thing with his mouth, and you think, okay, so you use the words he uses. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And then, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know who you are, Claire, but you're doing a great job. You're very nice. I think it's going to be beautiful. He's going to do a great job.
Good. A lot of it is like the little thing, because what you do with your eyes, that shouldn't really affect your voice, but it helps.
It's funny, isn't it?
And then like the hand and stuff. Yeah, it just all comes together.
It's like a figure of eight.
It is.
Each feeds off the other.
It totally is. You haven't really done a Mick Jagger, and we asked you to come in yesterday, and so you spent 5 hours hours last night
yeah.
practicing, which is obviously a lot less time than you would spend if you were doing it properly, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So let's hear then your 5 hours worth of work. Mick Jagger.
Well, I noticed, you know, when I was watching with the interviews with Sir Mick, with the Grey Man, I know it's funny. His voice isn't actually that remarkably. You know, people think of the impression. If we were on television, I could do all the, you know, posing and the dancing and the head flicking. And at the moment, you know, we're not on the television, we're on the radio, you know. But I think, you know, he's got a sort of a slight slur in his speech. I'll leave that to imagination. But, you know, his thoughts are very agile. You know, there's this, you know, idea that rock stars are stupid people. He's got, you know, he's regarded as a genius for a reason.
That's
Something like that.
Brilliant.
Something like that.
Oh, it's so good. I wish you could see him because he's got his leg crossed in his hand. All the lovely camp movements that we love.
Yeah, I find it was very easy somehow.
Oh, it's fabulous. Oh, listen, it's been lovely to meet you. My
Lovely to meet
cheeks
you
are
too.
hurting. Can you leave now? Because I need my face needs a rest. Good luck with the future.
Thank you very much.
And everything
Thank you.
that the future holds. And it's been lovely. And thank you for doing 5 hours worth of homework
Oh,
for
it
us.
was my pleasure.
Really
My
appreciate
pleasure.
it. Andrew Lancaster, everybody.
BBC Radio Manchester.